tech tip is on ANSYS license management, and we are going to show you how to borrow an ANSYS product. That being said, Scott, I'm turning control over to you. You've got control.
Got control here. So this is a Mallett Technology tech tip, and we're going to show you today how to borrow a license. So I'm going to start off by opening up the ANSYS License Management Center and just verify that the license manager is running, which it is in this particular case, so we can make sure the licenses are available to borrow. So you can't borrow unless the manager is actually running. Then we're going to go to ANSYS 16 on the client machine, and underneath there's a ANSYS client licensing, and we're going to open the client ANSYS_admin tool. Similar to the server tool, but this is just on the client side. We can view the status of the licenses, make sure they're available. There's none in use at the moment. So what I'll do is then I'll run the ANSYS borrow utility. So I click on that, and what we need to do is we need to set the version that we want to borrow. In this particular case, I'm borrowing for 16. And then we need to set our return date. The red circle here is today's date. The circle over here is the sort of default return date. I'm going to actually set mine a little bit sooner. I'm going to set it for tomorrow. And we can also set a return time if we want to, but if we don't set it, it'll just assume the end of the day, the 19th, 11:59 p.m. So I'm going to highlight the licenses I want to borrow. I'm going to borrow all 3 of them at the moment. And I'm going to hit the borrow button. It's going to come up and tell me, hey, all the requested features were successfully borrowed. To be certain, we want to completely disconnect the machine from the network and then try and open ANSYS up. So we can't really disconnect from the network here, but what I'm going to do is I'll close this window down. All right? I'll shrink this back down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the license manager. So I'm actually going to shut down the license manager. So now, if our licenses aren't borrowed correctly, we shouldn't be able to open mechanical, and we shouldn't be able to see any of the licenses in this particular case. So the license manager has stopped running. Although I've borrowed licenses, I'm going to go ahead and open up the ANSYS R16 and see if those licenses are available. Now, why would you want to borrow these licenses? Well, if you've got a laptop and you're going to take it off the network for a period of time, if you're going to travel or something like that, or maybe you're in an area where your connection is going to be spotty or your VPN doesn't work real well. If you borrow the licenses, as you can see here, I've got my my project up here, and I can actually open up one of the tools and see if the licenses are working. You could borrow these licenses, take your laptop completely off of the network. In fact, you might have no Wi-Fi connection at all, and you can still use those licenses. Now, when you have them borrowed and checked out, no one else will be able to use them until you return them to the network. But once you return them, anybody can use them as usual. Now, the other thing is we set a return date. If we don't return them by that date, they're automatically going to go back to the server, and then we won't have access to them until we reconnect to the network. So you can see here I've got Space Claim up, and it's open, so our license is indeed running. I'm going to close this down, and I'm going to close down ANSYS altogether, and I'm going to show you how to return the licenses early if you want to. So right now the license manager is stopped. We need to start it back up if we want to return the licenses, make sure it's up and running. But if you just want to, you can wait for it to time out, or if you want to return them early, you can come back here, go to the client licensing, use the client admin tool. So the server's back up and running. You can see we got the green check mark. Click on the borrow utility again. You show here that none of the licenses are available for the borrow period. That's because I've already borrowed them. If we go to the Return tab at the top, we can see here are returned licenses. We can check them out. Here's the date they expire. So they would expire at 11:59 on the 19th. If I hit Return, it tells me here all borrowed features are successfully returned. And now if we do a status, we should see that they've all been checked back in. So that's how to borrow a license with ANSYS version R16.
Thank you. Goodbye.